1045 The Team and 1045theteam.com. Tom Kozlowski here with you. And joining me on the phone lines, you may have heard this on our Facebook page, on my Twitter page. I'm going to confirm the truth now. Joining us on the phone lines, he was a contestant on the ABC show The Bachelorette. Kyle Sherwood joins the show. And Kyle, just off the bat, can you confirm to the people here in the Capital Region that you and I were suite mates at Hobart College in the old Emerson Hall?
I can 100% confirm that I lived with the great Tommy Goss.
So we will get into the stories from Hobart in a second. But first, let's get into how in the world you ended up as a contestant on The Bachelorette.
Yeah, so it's not too interesting of a story, actually. I didn't go the traditional route of the application. I actually was lifting at an LA Fitness here in LA, and one of the lead casting producers or directors there, she just happened to be lifting there, and I thought she was hitting on me because she walks up to me and she goes, "Hey, you're cute," and I was like, "Oh, what's up, girl? Like, you're cute too." She goes, "Oh, well, I'm just casting for this TV show, da-da-da," and the rest is history.
So it's funny you mentioned that. You wouldn't think that's like the casual way to do it or the traditional way to do it, but Mike Black, who's from UAlbany, he played UAlbany basketball, fits the exact story that you're talking about. But it wasn't a female cast director. It was a male casting director. So very similar to you. Like, the difference from your story to his story is that he kept noticing the dude was eyeing him up, and he's like, "This is weird." And then he left the gym, and the dude was out in the parking lot waiting for him. So
my God.
Yeah, man, your story was a little bit better. So once she approaches you and tells you, like, "Hey, you might be on The Bachelorette," you were all about it then, right?
Not really, actually. So that happened months before we actually started shooting, and she was just basically like, "Hey, you don't need to make a hard and fast decision now. You just come in and meet with us, and then, a few months down the line, if you make it to the final round, you can give us a decision then." So that's exactly what happened. I took my time, went in for a couple interviews, and then I didn't hear from them for a few months, and they were picking the final round of like 40 guys or something like that, and I guess I just made it through.
So you're noticing maybe some things on social media. By the way, Kyle Sherwood from The Bachelorette, a recent contestant on the show, joining us here on 1045 The Team. One of my former roommates at Hobart College, which is really cool. And you get the profile. Were you getting some feedback about the gluten comments you were making?
Oh, I definitely got a lot of good feedback about that. People were like, "Oh my God, this guy's hilarious. Oh, he's like just one of us," and stuff like that. So, yeah, people were like showing me what was going on. I'm not like a huge Twitter guy myself, but all my friends were like, "Oh, people are loving that." Pretty funny.
Yeah, dude, it definitely was. So let's take us to the first night. You appear on The Bachelorette. You meet Rachel. Take us through that experience of coming out of the limo for the first time.
Yeah, so honestly, man, when I walked out, she was not to knock her, but she was prettier than I initially thought she was. Like, she definitely looks better in person than in picture, which is kudos to her. So walked out, was a little bit starstruck. I'd seen her on TV before, and then that kind of wore off. A few seconds later, walked up to her and just went with what the producers and I thought would be pretty funny. And so I presented her. They actually don't show the entire thing on the show, but a little bit of a insider scoop here. I actually presented her with a Jamaican bun and cheese spread, which is like, a typical Jamaican like snack type deal. And, half my family's Jamaican, so I thought it would be fitting. So I walk up to her, said my little line, and I pass that to her. And you don't see this on TV, but she's actually lactose intolerant. So she was like, "I would love to try some of that bread, but I can't eat that cheese with you." That was kind of funny. We laughed about that, and I just walked inside.
So that's an awesome story, by the way. I wish they would have left that in the show for sure. Now, you get into the house. What was the interaction like with you with the other contestants for Rachel? Was there really that bad blood we kind of saw in episode 1?
Honestly, man, no. Like, you know how I am. Like, I'm super chill. I get along with pretty much everyone, and that's kind of how it went down. Like, I was having too much fun actually hanging out with those guys. Like, I kind of lost sight of the goal, Like, I was supposed to be talking to this girl, and I'm out here chatting it up with all these guys laughing. But yeah, man, like, so eventually I was just like, I got to find a good time to get to meet her. And it's very tough because there's 30 of you and you're shooting for a very long time. And, it's tough to get that into that position with her. and it's also just tough. Like, it's a very awkward situation, right? Like, you're never in this situation in real life. So,
right.
Gunning for one girl's heart of 30 guys is just very strange. So eventually, got to go sit down with her for maybe a total of 4 minutes. We talked about very random things, which they didn't actually end up showing. Thank God. And then I was just like, you know what? I think you're interesting, but I wasn't going to be there for the purpose of the game. And I honestly wasn't feeling her that much. So it kind of went how it went, and I was okay with going off on the first episode.
Interesting you bring that up. Kyle Sherwood joining us, the Bachelorette contestant. You may have seen him on episode 1. My former roommate at Hobart College joining us here on 104.5 The Team. So you touch on the first meeting with Rachel, and if I'm not mistaken, they didn't show that in the first episode, your guys' interaction.
That's right.
All right, so you brought up the random things that had happened, and you said you weren't really feeling her. What happened in that 4-minute conversation? What were some of those topics you guys discussed?
Honestly, man, I went the nerd route. I was like, you know what? This is a really smart girl. She's a lawyer. She's an attorney. So let me see what she likes to read. So I started talking about what I like to read and what she likes to read. Mind you, it's like super late at night, like early in the morning. She's been shooting for like 8 hours, and that's the last thing she wants to talk about. I can tell like immediately. so yeah, it did not fly. And she's also just older than me, man. So there were a couple different things that was like were at play there.
So what is happening now? Since The Bachelorette has aired, has the love life of Kyle Sherwood improved since episode 1?
If by improved you mean girls are definitely more interested once they hear that, yeah. I'm not really the guy going out and telling people that, but all my friends will not let me go anywhere without saying it, so it's been interesting.
Dude, very good for you. I'm so happy that is how the love life is now turned out. Because I remember, not to give away too much information, but you were dating someone at the time that you were living with me, and she was a very sweet girl. We had some good times at the old Emerson Hall. So to know that you were out there singling and mingling with the best of the West Coast as a former roommate, I am very, very proud of you, my friend.
I appreciate it, man. I do it for the part.
That's it. That's right. Now, I want to bring you back to a story, and I think you and I are about to get in trouble here because it's one of my favorite stories. I don't think I've ever told you this before. I'd love to share the story about you on the air before.
Okay.
There's a time when you remember these weekends when we used to have the recruits come up to Emerson.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Sure. So there were 5 of us. It was myself and you. It was we'll say their names, whatever. Kevin Ryan, Bobby Maraffa, Gerard Tully, and Jeff Hummel. Jeff Hummel from Queensbury. And we're not hiding anything. The rosters are still out there at Hobart, so you can piece that together. So There's one night where we have a bunch of recruits up, and what they used to do is they used to go out and play basketball. There's all different colleges do these things. So the guys come back to the room, and there's 3 recruits up there that night. And let's just say we had some adult beverages in the room. Most of us were 21. We were in the room. You had right. You had walked over to the common room, and he said to the recruits, he said to me, and I think one of the other guys, he said, "Hey, are we allowed to feed them?" In other words, are we allowed to give them certain things? And I screamed at you. I go, Kyle, they're not animals, man. You can ask them if they want something to drink. But I think it's one of my favorite sports stories because kids go on these recruiting visits all the time, and they don't know how to handle themselves, but you handle yourself so perfectly. If you had to give a player, maybe here in the capital region, somebody who's in college or in high school pursuing it, some advice on a recruiting trip, because now you've done the whole thing. You're a reality TV show star. You've done the dating. Give them advice. You're going out to college for the first time. What would you tell them to do?
Whew. I would say go with your gut and have a good time. On those recruiting trips, it's all about making connections and seeing how it feels for you. Don't let anyone else sway you. Go with your heart.
I like that advice, man. It's really good advice. I'm getting pestered for this question. Fine, I'll ask the question. They want to know how I was as a sweet mate. How would you, from A to F, where would you rank Tommy Goss's sweet mate skills for you that year?
Tommy Goss is a legend. He is top quality roommate status. I would give you definitely an A, man. You killed it. You weren't always too rowdy. K-Rye was crazy all the time. Hummel was super quiet all the time. So you were that solid middle ground that sort of balanced everything out. We needed you.
Good. We will edit that in. That was not taped. That was anything. That was true right there. No one touched that answer. Don't let the interns or producers on that. Kyle Sherwood from The Bachelorette. How can people follow you? Because maybe they're listening to this interview now. They want to get in touch with you. Maybe they've made their own love connection through the television. How can people find Kyle Sherwood out there in the social media land, if at all? I know you're not on Twitter, though.
Yeah, for sure. So I think best that would be Instagram, @1Sherwood. So the number 1 in my last name.
There you go. @1Sherwood. Check him out on Instagram. Kyle, I'm so proud of you. I know you're out on the left coast right now, but anytime you're back in the east or if I'm heading out west, we're going to reunite and we're going to tear up something. Something good's going to happen with us, all right?
I'm looking forward to it, bro. Thanks for calling.